Let's get started.
This is the Okayest Hunter Podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Okayest Hunter Podcast. Coming at you from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin today. And typically be a little bit of West Bend, a little bit of Lake Mills in the house, but Derek and Greg aren't here tonight, so it's me. But don't worry, it won't be me solo the whole time, because that would be a terrible episode, and I would beg you to just go find something else to listen to if that were the case. So I will be bringing our guest on shortly. We'll have Whitney Tram on with us momentarily, but I figured I'd get through the housekeeping stuff early. Brought to you by Nosler. Be sure to check out nosler.com and use code OHP for 20% off. I will say something that maybe I haven't promoted or talked about too much, because I'm not personally involved in brass reloading, but you can buy brass for reloading from Nosler. They have premium brass for all the different calibers that you would imagine you would need. So like that is something that you can get from those guys and use our discount code for, in addition to buying their trophy grade ammo, their whitetail country, their Armageddon, everything else that they have, as well as their merch too, which I actually personally really like their merch quite a bit. It's really high quality, I think. So anyway, wanted to state that, make sure I get through that part. We are also working with a number of other partners, some of them very visible here on the screen. Latitude Outdoors, they're running a Father's Day sale. They're also doing a giveaway right now for an e-bike. You got to head over to their website and look at the rules for entry. I think it's like what you would call like more of like a sweepstakes. But the thing looks pretty cool. So they've obviously partnered with a brand to give one of those things away. I mean, I'm looking at buying a mountain bike actually, and kind of like, why wouldn't I buy an e-bike? Like, I'm gonna go bike riding with my kids. Maybe I would do that, like, because then I would, kind of be cheating a little bit, and that sounds nice, actually. Hey guys, why are you so tired? Well, we don't have an electric bike, Dad. That'd be something I'm looking at. Anyway, I'm not going to enter the contest, but you guys all should. Rack Hub, bring home the memories from the field, mount them on the wall in several different ways, whether that's a paddle you find from the Boundary Water Canoe area for moose shed hunting. Maybe you found some sheds out west looking for elk and muleys, or you're a whitetail guy like me and you got some sheds you found in Iowa or Wisconsin or Midwest or PA or whatever. Rack Hub's a great resource to mount your memories in all sorts of unique ways. So check out Rack Hub as well. And then Gerber Gear, we just did a really fun camp with a bunch of their gear for turkey and trout camp, and we just posted a little bit about it today. I've been rocking their Affirm foldable knife. That's been my go-to like daily carry knife lately. It's sleek, it's slim. It's got a longer blade as a foldable knife, but it fits in my pocket real nice. It's a low profile knife. It also has a belt loop clip. I'm not to that dad level yet, so it is just clipping into my pocket. But it's come in handy like as an everyday carry knife for me, and I've really enjoyed any chance I have to like take that thing out and put it to use. So you can use our code OHP at Gerber Gear as well. Their website, gerbergear.com. And stay tuned for our giveaway coming up in July. I know I've been teasing a little bit, but it is a sweepstakes. There'll be a lot of fun stuff. I'm excited to announce it all. It's been a lot of work to kind of get everything staged, prepped, ready. There's a lot of materials that have to go into effect, so to speak, to get that off the ground. Foam Fest has been launched on the event page. So you can go to our website, okayesthunter.com, go to the About. Under that, you'll find events, and you can navigate to the Foam Fest event page to register. It's $50, but you're going to get as long as you register by, I forget what the specific date is, it'll tell you on the event page, but you'll get a free t-shirt and a goodie bag. It'll include your meal for breakfast and lunch, and there'll be lots of things to enter in for raffle. We are partnering with Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. The Wisconsin should be a ton of fun. It's August 9th this year. Typically, it's at the end of August. This year, we moved it up a bunch for several reasons. Reasons don't really matter, but there'll be youth-friendly events, kid-friendly events, family-centric. Bring your wives, your kids, your husbands, like bring the family along. We're meant to bring our family into the woods with us. So I think we leave our significant others at home often enough that this is a great event to include them and incorporate them. So there's that. And then what was the last thing I want? Oh, yeah, Father's Day. Father's Day sale is live on our website. You don't need a code. You don't need to do anything. You just go there, put the stuff in your cart, and the discount applies automatically. It's 20% off site-wide now through Father's Day. We do have some fun Father's Day merch. We have like the dad bod shirt, and I think we ran out of koozies a long time ago, and for the life of me, cannot find another vendor to make the buffalo plaid fleece flannel koozies. It's been a nightmare to try to figure that out for some reason. So if you know anybody, let me know. It's been a real treat to find someone to do that. We haven't been able to do it. Our onesies are up for pre-order. They're coming this month, so you could put your pre-order for those. They did sell out in like a day at our trade show in March, so you might want to get those ahead of time. If you know someone having a baby, or if you're having a baby, anyone's having a baby, buy a onesie. That's pretty cute, I will say. Okay, that's enough of my bullshit. So let's get on to the show here. What's up, Whitney? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I was laughing at you said you weren't entering the Latitude giveaway for the free e-bike. Yeah. And I feel like I'm kind of reaching that point where like I can't, it's not really fair for me to enter giveaways either. But some of them are so good that I can't pass up on it. I'm like,
yeah. Like, I think if they pick my name out, they'd be like, what the hell, man? Like, no, you're not going to win this. We're going to pick another name. Like, I think it'd be bad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I never did anything.
Anyone that I've won recently, everyone's like, Whitney, like, why did you do that? I'm like, I'm sorry.
But if you go to an event and it's like a silent raffle and you put your ticket in, I think that is acceptable. Like, you should do those, right?
Yeah, I just entered an online silent raffle, and granted, it was one that I know about and have shared about, but like my odds are the same as everyone else's.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and who doesn't need a new e-bike? I mean, I don't have one, and they look really fun. So I think that would be a neat thing to have.
I've looked at those two for just being here out west, and I've not looked at the Latitude ones, but someone was telling me they're calling it like the off-brand one because it was like a third of the price of whatever popular one, the BOSU one that everyone is using. And they got it for their wife, and I'm blanking on the brand of it, but they said it was significantly better, sorry, BOSU, than the one that they paid 3 times the price for. And I was like, it's good to know.
There's a lot of them on the market. I don't know all the brands. BOSU is a brand that I am aware of. Rambo, and there's like Quiet Cat. There's a few that were like the first ones that probably like emerged. And then now there's like a whole bunch of players just like, oh, we're going to be an e-bike company too. So
as it goes in the outdoors industry.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's take a second. So you've called into the Okayest Hunter podcast before, but for those that aren't aware or don't know, I'm excited to have you on because you are the host of the Wild Strength podcast, which you've had for some time, but for some reason you decided to join our band of misfits and join the Okayest Podcast Network. And so now you're rolling with us. And talk about what the Wild Strength podcast is from your perspective, and also like who you are. You have too many like letters behind your name for me to make sense of it. So like if you could do that part, that would be really helpful for me as a host.
No, for sure. Someone else said that too, and I'm like, at this point, they've been there for so long, I don't even think about it. I guess I'll tell a little bit about like what my background is, and then kind of lead into how the Wild Strength podcast came about. But then I'll start with like becoming a part of the Okayest Hunter Network. When I like first heard of it, it was through Elizabeth. She had the Onset podcast, and then I met Zach as well, and I was like, this describes me so well that whether or not I'm a part of it, like I love what you're doing and what you have going. I'm okay in all aspects of my life. So I think it's perfect. But anyways, my background and kind of schooling and education is in like exercise science, strength and conditioning. And I spent a number of years as a strength and conditioning coach. So the letters behind my name are just like my master's, and then certain certifications that are required for strength and conditioning coaches to have in our field in order to even just like get a job.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, and so I worked like a year with the collegiate level. I worked a year at the high school level, and then after that, I've worked mostly with military. So a little bit with special operations, with Air Force special warfare. Now I work a lot more with conventional military, just like big army, big military at large. Um, and my kind of passion for the outdoors, I've kind of been into the outdoors ever since I was young. Both my dad and my grandpa were hunters, but they both passed when I was really young. But I grew up fishing. Like we would catch catfish down in Texas. We'd fry it up for dinner. We'd have catfish and hush puppies, and like that was dinner a lot of nights. And then as I got older, I was always interested in hunting. Didn't really know how to get into it on my own until one day I was like, you know what, Whitney, like figure it out. I think COVID was really expedited that for me, like realizing that there might become a time where I can't get meat from the grocery store. So I've got to figure out how to get it on my own. And so that was kind of a big push for me to, I would just go into bow shop and ask anyone and everyone like, hey, how do I get into hunting? Where do I go? What do I need to do? And I'm a social butterfly, so I have no fear and no pride and ego because I've never hunted before. So I have no problem asking people for help. Um, so I started in Texas. I moved out west to Colorado because you see the elk hunting, the mule deer hunting, and I was just fascinated by that. And that was kind of more what I wanted to chase. It's significantly harder than hunting whitetail in Texas. I found out really fast. But moved out
Yeah,
west
it's
to
not that
Colorado.
much land unless you own it, right?
Yeah, it's tough down there because it was either a pay to play, paying someone to hunt their ranch or their property or their lease, or yeah, you have your own land, which I didn't. And every now and then, if you have a good enough friend, they'll let you come over for free on like the one free day that they don't have someone there. But it was just I wanted to get out on my own terms, and in Texas, it was I had to get out on everyone else's terms. So that was really tough. So yeah, Colorado also the draw to public land and having way more public land than I could ever imagine in Texas was also a draw as well. And so I kind of realized tying to the Wild Strength podcast, um, yeah, just my passion for outdoors and how I would train who I worked for in the military was very similar to how I would train myself or really anybody else who was preparing for a hunt. And I'm not even going to say a backcountry hunt because I feel like your physical fitness is important for sitting a tree stand or sitting a blind or anything. Like fitness is important in hunting. Whether like if you're just sitting there, if you are fit, you can control your heart rate better when your big target buck comes in and you don't miss them. Versus someone who's a little less fit that might interact with their shot process. So that was kind of like selfishly, I wanted to start a podcast to learn because I've only been hunting. This will be my 5th season. To learn more about hunting, but then also to have like some of my really good friends on who are way more knowledgeable than I am, and pick their brains and have like really good conversations with them, and hopefully people could learn from those conversations like I did. And so that was kind of where the start of the Wild Strength podcast came from. So wild is like for my passion in hunting in the outdoors, and then strength is from my background in like strength and conditioning and human performance.
That's a wow. Thank you for like laying down the foundation. You've had you've been a guest on several podcasts. You've hosted yours for a little while now. I've had the opportunity to jump into a couple different episodes, and one of the questions I wanted to ask is like, I guess is there anything about your story that people you found might misunderstand, or things that like people haven't asked you that but they should?
Yeah, good question. You know what I get a lot that like frustrates me is, and this may or may not answer your question. Um, and to be fair, before I say this, I'm going to preface it with like, I get really positive feedback from my Instagram and my podcast and all of that. I had a dad message me one time and say, like, I pray to God that my daughter grows up to be someone like you. Like, I get really positive feedback in that way. But I get a lot of also the men who are like, you get to do this because you're a woman, and men want to help you because you're a woman, and you got to go on this hunt because you're a woman. And I was even thinking about this today, so it's so funny that you asked because it's fresh. Someone said this recently too.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like and before I ever even got into hunting, like who I am as a person is a hard worker. If I don't feel like I put effort into something, I don't feel that I deserve it. Like if I didn't work hard for something, I don't deserve this. Why is this happening to me kind of thing? So any critter that I've ever harvested, any hunt that I've ever been on, any trip that I've ever been on and also let me say, I've never made a dime from this podcast. So it's not like
Yeah.
podcast is bringing, yeah, you're like, same. It's not like this podcast is bringing me all these opportunities. I'm either going out there on my own. I do a lot of solo hunting, and not for any reason other than I just don't always have someone who can go with me when I have the time to go. Um, and anything that I've ever harvested or any trip, like it's all been on my own. And so I think it's easy to look at social media and to think that, oh, she has a podcast, so she's getting all these cool things, or oh, she's a woman and she's getting all these things.
Well, I
But
think there's, a bad egg will ruin a bunch. Not to say that any females or girls that are doing things a different way are necessarily a bad egg, but there are very clearly some women that, like, it's visibly obvious that, like, yeah, they're on a guided hunt. Like, and
yeah,
so and good for them, sure, like, that's still the experience, and they're making the best out of whatever that looks like, but it's very obvious, like, that it's a curated thing, and it's mostly for content and for the camera, and, of course, they're gonna get their intrinsic value out of it too, that comes with the territory.
mhm,
However, like, how they got there is very different than your path, and, others that, like, are doing things that are kind of like this self-endeavor, which the fact that you move states is, uh, that's a huge, like,
mhm,
uprooting. Like, "Hey, I have this dream, this pipe dream of, like, I'm gonna move out west someday," but, like, am I? I have 3 kids, like, I'm rooted down.
yeah.
I that ship may have sailed for me. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't, but, like, that's a lot to move to a different state with a different lifestyle, a different climate, and a different altitude nonetheless, like, and to be like, "You're just gonna go figure out how to chase elk? Are you kidding me?" Like, I've yet to do that. So, like, male or female, like, shit's hard. Like, good for you.
Yeah, and I think too, like, it's not even just like you said, like one bad egg can ruin a basket. It's social media also, like, and it's funny. I was talking to someone the other day. I decided to, for a very short period, venture into the world of dating apps, and since have deleted it. Was not a fun time. But anyways, um, someone asked, like, like, can I see your social media? And instantly, my immediate response was, I could show it to you, but my Instagram looks like all I do is hunt and shoot bows, and I'm so much more than that. Like, first, I am like a decent human being, and then I am a hunter and an archer and all of these other things. So I didn't even like. I was like, I don't even want to send that to you because you're gonna get this false sense of who I might be. And then I started realizing, like, oh, maybe people who follow me think that too. Like, hunting is not my full time thing. That would be incredible, but it's not.
Yeah, well, you have a master's degree. My wife is going for a master's degree right now, while being a mom of 3 kids, and
Yeah, I love it.
it's insane. So, like, that alone by itself is really, a difficult task and one to be commended. But I remember Elizabeth Brownell, um, just had her first kid not too long ago, and in doing so, she hung up the podcast mic for the foreseeable future. She was running the Onset podcast, and she had Matt Ranella on, and that episode really ruffled my feathers because he had looked at her Instagram profile, which is her personal Instagram, and said, "Well, you have pictures in your bathing suit." It's like, but he was missing the point.
I
Like,
love that.
those
Yeah.
pictures weren't there to flaunt and, like, game the hunting community. Those just happen, like, of course, if I was at a beach, there's probably some bullshit of me in a swimming suit if you go far enough on my social media because I was at a beach with my kids. I'm not flaunting anything, not to mention, like, who cares? But he was missing the forestry of the trees, and the point was, like, so you have something that's a little bit opposite, like, you don't have any other personal things happening there,
Mhm.
and it's like, gosh, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. What the hell are you supposed to do? It's kind of asinine. So, the other question that kinda dovetails that I had kind of, like, preloaded here in my mind is, like, is there a controversial opinion you hold about fitness or hunting that like you're willing to stand behind that you think is like, let me air this out really quick. Let's talk about this.
Mm. Good question. Controversial. I think my biggest thing is, well, one, this is simple always works. I think everyone wants to do the next fitness fad. CrossFit looks really cool, and if CrossFit is your thing, by all means do it. There was a point in my career where I thought it was the dumbest thing to ever exist. But at this point, like, if people are moving, I want you to move. And if you like to move, you're going to do it more if you like to do what you're doing. So if that's what you like, by all means do it. But simple always works. And I think the one thing that like grinds my gears, because I see it all over like social media and specifically sometimes in like hunting and even in sport too, is like the concept of standing on a BOSU ball to get balance training to prepare you for like uneven terrain. Um, and I want to punch everyone that I see who is standing on a freaking BOSU ball. Now, there's a time and place for a BOSU ball, like if you're doing physical therapy and you're trying to like maybe strengthen like ankle musculature or whatever. But there's a couple of things that I think of. One, like there's even a research. I'm also doing my PhD. I'm a huge research nerd. There is a like research study that looked at like improving your balance. I think it was in like female soccer players, and they did like half the group did exercises on a BOSU ball and half the group did like different, like you're on flat ground, but maybe it's like a single leg RDL or like some other things to test your balance where you're not both feet on the ground. And balance and stability increased more so in the girls soccer players who were doing the like on the ground single leg exercises than those who were doing stuff on a BOSU ball. And so when you think about it this way, like in sport, you get better at playing soccer by playing soccer. You get better at shooting your bow by shooting your bow. Now, there may be exercises you can do that can help make you a better soccer player. You can work on your strength, your stability, your agility, your stamina. There might be exercises you can do that help you build more stamina in shooting your bow. But if you just did those exercises and you never played soccer or you never shot your bow, you're never going to get better at those things. So same thing with the BOSU ball. Like if you're just training on a BOSU ball to gain balance and stability on uneven terrain, it's not really going to translate very well.
Interesting. I don't know if you follow or have heard of. Do you follow or have you heard of Jordan Syatt with Syatt Fitness?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I don't have anybody I enjoy more than him, probably as a human on social media, but also as like a fitness person, whatever that means. I just put the link in the Facebook chat, I guess, but I'll send it to you as well. But very similar approach. Like, hey, if this is what you like and to move, then do that thing. Very distilled. He's able to take these huge ideas, concept things that people will like carve out as a single threaded, this is the only way, and he'll like just shred it into something that you're like, oh yeah, that makes a ton of sense,
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you haven't already heard of him, he was on our podcast a while ago, 2 years ago, which I thought was really neat. So how he came into the fold is I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. I got to meet him in 2019. Jordan was Gary V's personal trainer for a couple of years.
Oh,
To
cool.
the tune of he literally flew with him everywhere. Like Gary's like, look, if you're going to be my personal trainer, you're just going to be with me 24/7, basically. So when I fly into this country, you're on the plane with me. And so clearly Jordan picked up a lot of good marketing prowess from Gary because his stuff is amazing. Gary lost a bunch of like weight and got pretty healthy by doing all the stuff that Jordan said. And in being Gary's guy, he amassed quite the following. I think his Instagram, I'll just check because I have it open on another tab. He's got 1 million followers. So when I talked to him, he probably had about 800,000, but he had lost like 100,000 followers basically overnight because he posted that he went hunting. So most of his audience they're not in the crowd at all.
I think
So
I remember talking about this.
yeah, I was just like, whoa, dude, what? And his story was really cool. And he's obviously like super duper beginner hunter because you always know when you talk to a new hunter, like it's like anything. If I were to start talking about any topic I'm not confident about or have experience in, like I'm not going to use the right words, like, and anybody that is endemic to a category or a topic, they'll know, like, oh, and it's not a bad thing, but like it was very much so you could tell he is new to hunting, which I thought was a really neat episode for that reason. But man, you should have him on your show. You guys would chop it up. And
Yeah.
he's back then he was receptive to DM, so maybe he still would be. I'm not sure, and that would be an episode I'd be really like enthused to listen to.
Yeah.
Uh,
Send over his page and I'll definitely reach out. I find that I like early on in my podcast, I was having more and more like coaches on and we are talking a lot about
sure.
training. And then as time has gone on, I'm having less people who are involved in the fitness, which is totally fine. I don't ever have like a plan for my conversations. But like as time goes on, I'm having more and more just hunting conversations. And I'm like, God, I really like need to scratch that itch again with some training
Well,
conversations.
these podcasts are very like you have the ability and luxury to it's your show. You can be super selfish. Like when I started doing this, I would just have people on about things I want to learn about. I never thought about the audience. But it's like, look, I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn about it my damn self. And it turns out other people are interested too. That's kind of how it like evolved to now it's just a bunch of bullshit. We just have BS sessions. But what is the word in wild strength? Like, what does the word strength mean to you? Like, what does that encompass? Because that's a pretty broad term. Like you mentioned strength and some other terminology alongside of it. I'm just curious, like, that could be mental strength, physical strength, and to what degree and to how, and like, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, good question. That's kind of been, and if you ever like made it all the way through the end of it, I kind of always ask people like, what does wild strength mean to you? And so I got advice from someone before I ever started a podcast, and they were like basically saying, find a way to make it yours. Like do something every single episode that stands out, that makes it a little bit different, that makes it yours. And mine was the walk up song in the beginning, and then ending it with, what does wild strength mean to you? And that has been, unbeknownst to me, my favorite part of the entire podcast. Like if I could just have people on and ask them, what does wild strength mean to you every single time, and that'd be the whole conversation. I would be okay with that. But like, what does it mean to me? I mean, kind of exactly what you said. I think I would lean more on the mental side of things. I think strength and fortitude and the ability to carry on despite any problems that are going on, the ability to carry on despite failure time and time again. I've failed in life. I've failed in work. I've failed in hunting. I've failed in scouting and the backcountry. Like, failure is my middle name, but I also succeed time and time again too, because I learn from those failures. And I think it takes a lot of strength to pick yourself back up, know that you're probably going to fail again, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or whatever, and again and again and again. But then finally, if you keep pushing forward, and I'm stubborn, like I'm one of the most stubborn people you ever meet. So I think that helps me a lot. It's just to know, yeah, like you're going to be successful if you keep trying. No matter what. And I think it takes a lot of strength to continue to carry on and to keep trying no matter what's going on in your life or in hunting or whatever it is that keeps holding you back.
Yeah, well, that's a good answer. And we had a comment come through from Dirk on Facebook. He said, when I was 20 years younger, we launched Wilderness Athlete. No one cared about this 20 years ago. What's changed? And then he had a follow-up comment. Does wild strength mean having to do 500 push-ups before shooting your bow? I mean, I think you just answered that. It'd be a no. But what do you think has changed? I
Yeah.
have a thought about it, but I'm sure you're a bit closer to it, so your thought's going to be more valid than mine.
Yeah, no, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts too, obviously just because you've been hunting longer. I think just even remove hunting entirely, like fitness is a trend. Like it's trendy to be in shape. It's trendy to eat healthy. It's trendy to go for a walk, which I love that. I'm not like saying that in a judgmental way. I love that fitness is a trend, although sometimes it grinds my gears a little bit when people do weird things. But I think that, yeah, fitness has become a trend, and I think people are recognizing, I know at least for me and like the people that I surround myself with, like I want to do this forever. And even I mentioned, working a lot with military, the verbiage that I always use with them, um, is like, how long do you want to be able to do this career? do you want to get your 20 years in? Do you want to? There is research that shows, like, even in like fire and law enforcement, that once you do your 20 years and you retire, you pass away a few years later because you spent so much time unfit, unhealthy, and stressed in your career. So then I look at the same thing in like hunting and just like lifestyle in general, like longevity. I want to be able to feel as good as I feel right now for as long as I possibly can. I want to be able to hunt and climb mountains for as long as I possibly can. I want to be able to draw back my bow for as long as I possibly can. And I recognize there's a level of fitness that plays into that, and a level of taking care of my health, taking care of my nutrition that plays into that. And I think that's becoming a more and more like prevalent mindset, is the just the ability or thought to want to do this forever, and recognizing that like one day your time's going to come. I know for me, like, I've experienced a lot of like family members who have passed, and so like, I know my time isn't forever, but if I can extend that through my health as long as I can, why would I not do that? But I'm curious your thoughts. Yeah, I think more so because it's like a trend and a more prevalent mindset to just be healthy. And training and gyms are more accessible than ever, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a good answer. My thought is like, I also am not hating on trends. If the catalyst gets you to do something positive, I don't care to that. And I remember when COVID happened, and a lot of the hunting community was like annoyed that people get annoyed at the reason why someone gets involved. And I look at it like, well, who cares what the freaking reason was? They're doing it now, and if they choose to stick with it, great. And if not, like, so what? Then it wasn't for them, and that's fine. Like, I don't know what there is to be mad about that someone's enjoying the same thing you enjoy. You had a different reason of getting into it that no one judged. So, like, why are you judging? Same thing with fitness. I don't care what gets you into it. If you're doing it, that is a net positive thing. I don't know if you watched our film Fork and Chicken, where Greg and Derek were in Oregon on a hunt for blacktail. So a couple Midwestern guys hiking high elevation. It's on YouTube. It's on Carbon TV. It's worth a watch. It's fun. But they were with our friend Lyndon Lauren. I'm not sure if you know Lyndon or not. He wrote the book The Hunter Health Span, which is kind of talking about what you're talking about, where he's like, hey, how long do I want to be? If this is the thing I love the most and I want to do this as long as possible, wouldn't it make sense to take the best possible care of my body so that I can do the thing that I love for another 20 years? And if you watch the film, Lyndon's a fucking beast. Like, he is an absolute well-oiled machine of a human being that lives what he preaches. And he's like, he's a researcher, so he wrote this book. I forget his pedigree and his background, but there's a reason he wrote the book. It like all lines up. Great dude, super nice human, no ego, there to serve and help. Very giving. Like, he offered for us to come out there and basically guided the hunt for our crew. But my thought is like, yeah, I don't know if maybe it's trendy. I think there's trends within the overall fitness, but I remember when Forrest Gump came out as a kid, and that was depicting the trend of running when that started to happen. And if you ever read the book Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, like, you can find the point in time when, like, he founded, well, it was Blue Ribbon Sports until it became Nike when they IPO'd. But fascinating story about how, like, their shoes were right in lockstep, pun intended, with the trend of running. That's been happening this entire time. I have a very love-hate relationship with running, but I do it at my feeble attempt to try to stave off the dad bod, because I'm not actually fit. I just am trying to not. I think of it like a river. If I'm trying to just stand in the river, like, I don't want to go with the current. But if I'm like swimming upstream, I'm not really getting anywhere, but I'm also not going downstream and getting completely out of shape. Like, I'm doing something about it, and I'm not willing to go down the waterfall of shit life. So that's my
I think endurance strength is like a whole different level of like fitness and strength. Like, you see the things like holding like 3 kids or whatever anyone's doing, and it's definitely a whole level of strength that I don't have. Which also brings me to like, so when I like first was a coach and first like in college, I used to compete in powerlifting, and if you're familiar with that at all, like you're strong in 3 lifts, you're strong in the bench, the squat, and the deadlift, and that's literally it.
Mhm.
You try to do anything else, and it's like, oh, this isn't squatting, I can't do this. Like I feel weak. So it's like been interesting too to like want to know that I want to feel good when I'm hiking in the mountains and doing anything. Like just being strong and those 3 lifts does not carry over very well to being able to climb a mountain. Like there's a level of endurance that you have to have. There's a level of balance and agility and all these things. And I think that the trendy term is like functional training, but to do like carrying, like bending over and like picking up a kid all the time or carrying in like your groceries, like doing functional real life things that are applying a little bit of load, like to me, that's still some sort of fitness.
Well, let's talk about that more because like I'll run not as I'm not as like I was every other day for like months on end at times. That is not the case right now because it's just with Holly being a full time like master's student, mom, work. There's all the stuff. This podcast, there's all the stuff to do all the time. So it's like I just kind of go when I can, and I try to make it a priority when it makes sense. But like I went running yesterday, for example, and I had to bring my boys with me. They're 3.5 and 5.5. So one's on a scooter because he doesn't know how to ride a bike real great yet, and the other's on a bike, so he's like a mile ahead of us seemingly, and the other one's on a scooter. He's 3, just scooting along. But my older kid stops on the bike. I almost trip on him. He stopped because he wanted to pick a flower that probably had a bee on it. And then the kid on the scooter, he's like at the tail end of this thing. He's like, I'm done, Dad. I'm like, what? You're like the literal Energizer Bunny. What do you mean you're done? So I'm carrying a scooter. Well, he's like trying to run. And I'm like, no, you got to get back on your scooter. You're not as fast as a gingerbread man. He's like, oh, yeah, I am. And he like takes off again. So I'm like, okay, I can run a little bit longer here and get my height right back into the orange zone. And it's not the same as like when I didn't have to worry about this stuff. But
Mhm.
I'll carry a kid up to bed, up the stairs in my house, or all 3 of them in some cases, if they pass out down here on like a summer night or whatever. I'm like, I'm cooked. I'm like, why am I so out of breath? I'm like, I go to the gym, I run. Like, why am I feel like I just got the wind knocked out of me carrying a kid up the stairs? Like, what are the things in your expertise and experience that translate best to the mountain,
Mhm.
to the backcountry? What are the things you can do in the gym? Am I just going to go on the Stairmaster and like suffer through that for an hour and that'll be my best bet? I'm sure there's a number of things, but like, what are some of the things that you believe translate best for a hunter?
Yeah. So I always like to look at it from the perspective of like what I call training qualities. And so kind of like I mentioned earlier, like the way in which I would train maybe like a soldier or a backcountry hunter or someone who just wants to be like fit for life would be very similar because the qualities are similar. And what I mean by that is like some level of strength. And that doesn't necessarily mean having the biggest squat, bench, and deadlift. Like strength can mean maybe you can carry it. How can you move a lot of weight in some capacity? I really like doing like sled stuff, like pushing and pulling sleds. And I feel like that is my new like ego thing is like I feel really strong doing that thing.
Well,
Um,
that's a big one because I will drag deer out of the woods in a sled. Like,
exactly. So that
that
and you
crush it too. That like kills my lungs. I feel like I'm gonna explode.
I bet every time I'm doing those, it's the worst, but like the best thing ever. Honestly, if you were to ask me like what's one exercise that I could only do for the rest of my life, I think sleds is what I would choose.
I see people doing it at the gym. I'm like, good for you. I don't want to fuck with that. That looks hard.
It's definitely not easy by any means, but some level of strength, right? And like
Yeah.
what I always say when you're picking something for strength, like pick something that you like and that makes you feel strong. Then also like another quality is some level of endurance. And I also hate running. I trained for a half marathon last year because someone dared me that I wouldn't do it. Even if it wasn't for that, I would not have done it ever. Prior to that, like I just did like sprints and stuff, like running longer than 2 miles was a huge ask of me. But like, so what are other ways that we can train endurance? I think people only think about running. We can throw on like a weighted vest that can be 10, 20, 30 pounds, and we can go for a walk around the neighborhood. We can walk our dog. How can we kill 2 birds with one stone? We can walk the dog, have our spouse with us and the kids with us. We can walk around the block and we can have a weighted vest on. And that's better than just sitting at home on your couch. Other ways that you can train endurance are having a bike. I know it's like really popular to get those like bike setups at home now, like the
Mhm.
spin. super popular, so that's a way that you can train endurance. You mentioned a stairmaster. Swimming, if you like swimming and you have access to a pool you can swim in, like that's a good way. Even just treading water if you have a small pool. Like there's so many ways that you can build the row things. Like there's so many ways that you can build endurance, and I think people think, oh, I don't like running, so I can't build endurance.
How do you measure endurance then? Like, so you can build it, but usually you wanna, like, take a snapshot of where you're at today and, like, in a month measure just much like you'd measure your weight. If you're trying to, like, whatever if the outcome or the goal is to become, or have more endurance, how do you measure that?
Yeah, they're good questions. The, like, scientific measure is gonna be like your VO2 max, which is just the measure of oxygen you're consuming, but the average person does not have access to getting that. Sweet, the good old watch can give that to you. But
I never know what it meant. I'm like, "Yeah, okay." It's like, "Eric, you're negative 3 points today." I'm like, "What the fuck?" I I don't feel negative 3 points. I'm starting my run, like, trying to get hyped, and my watch is, like, poo-pooing me, or sometimes it's like, "You're above average." So I'm like, "Oh, really? But why? Like, what's changed?" So I never
yeah,
relate that really well, but so I don't know if that's what that is or not, but it does tell me the VO2 max, and I don't really know what to make of that stuff.
yeah, so that's essentially the wearable data. I goodness gracious, I could go on a tangent on it,
Just the
but
Garmin, I don't know if Garmin's any good or not, but
I have a Garmin as well. To keep it like short and sweet, the wearable data is usually good within itself. So you have, I'm blanking on the word, but if you're keeping up with like your weight via your Garmin and you're watching your weight on your Garmin only, then you can be consistent. But say like I'm watching my weight on my Garmin and then I'm looking at it on, which you can't even weigh yourself on your Garmin, but this is just an example. And then I'm like weighing myself on a scale, and then I have like a different kind of scale. Like they're all, none of them are consistent around each other, but they're consistent within themselves. The Garmin, when it's telling you like the plus or minus, like it says it's your VO2 max, but it's basically just basing it off of like your breathing rate and your heart rate. So maybe it seems a little higher than normal, which means like you're probably underslept or underfed or some combination
all
there.
the above for me.
Yeah, a combination thereof.
Why are you out here running? You're gonna die. And I always run on hot days, like just like suffering. I know it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. Like have you heard of Aura rings? OURA.
I've heard of them. I don't. You'd have to explain to me in the audience what that is.
Yeah, so it's basically a Garmin watch in a ring format. It gives you a lot of the same information, a lot of the same readouts, and it gives you a readiness score every single day.
Hmm.
It originally was created for sleep and sleep only, so it was like the best kind of sleep wearable that you could get, but it has since evolved to include pretty much everything a Garmin gives you. But I had to stop wearing it because I would wake up and I'd be like, man, I feel great today. And I would look at my readiness score and it would be like a 40. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I feel amazing. So then instantly I would feel tired seeing that score. Or the opposite
You
would
can
happen.
justify. You'd be like, look, my it says here that I need to rest. I had a stressful day. I'm like, of course I did. I worked myself on purpose. I think it needs to redefine what stress means. Like,
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would agree. But yeah, so you were saying like how can you measure your endurance or whatever? I would say kind of just like the simplest way is pick a pace that works for you, whether you're actually tracking like a 10 or 12 or 8 minute mile pace. And then see like a good way to track is how long, maybe every month, maybe every week, push yourself to see how long you can hold that pace. And as that time gets longer and longer, you're building a little bit more endurance. Or just simply see, like maybe you want to, 30 minutes is all you ever have to run. You never have any longer to run than 30 minutes. Get that 30 minutes done at a 12-minute pace. And then as that starts to feel easy, let's see if I can get this 30-minute race or 30 minutes of running done at an 11:30 pace. Once that starts to feel easy, can I get 30 minutes done at an 11-minute pace? So different ways that you can go about doing it, but essentially, like I always say, the easiest way is if you're feeling better going longer or faster, push yourself a little bit more until you feel better again, and then challenge yourself more.
and how much rest is sufficient between some of that stuff? So and I ask on the running. This is just running stuff, but
Mhm.
weightlifting too. Like I know I personally could do a lot better on the eating side of things. Like I know you can't outrun a bad diet, just like you can't out earn a bad budget. But like and maybe those things aren't completely true, but by and large, like, I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah, for the most part.
I what I'm trying to say here, a buddy of mine, Anthony Heller, who runs the Deer Vein podcast, I think he's like maybe a touch younger than I am, but not by much. And
Mhm.
dude is like running 6-minute miles. I'm like, bro, how are you 40 years old running 6-minute miles? Like 18, I was barely doing that. And I, because I'm competitive, I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Not
Mhm.
happening. I have to basically kill myself to do that. I don't even know if it's possible. Like, I don't think it is. But a summer ago, I was like really pushing it. And so I think I was measuring endurance without realizing it, but I was trying to get how fast can I run a mile? And so then
Mhm.
I would run 5 or 10 miles to like see if I could over index. And then I was like, how much rest do you think I need in between the next go about? Because I've heard some people say they're running a mile a day or 2 miles a day. I'm like, shouldn't you be resting? Like the shin splints alone are going to break me. What are you talking about? Like, obviously, everybody is different. I'm also
Mhm.
weightlifting, so I'm doing like 4 days in the gym a week. I have people that disagree with me, and I just don't know enough to care if this is right or wrong. I just am like, yeah, this works for me. So like, I don't
Yeah.
care if this is a bad idea, but I do back, chest, legs, abs, bis, tris, and then shoulders, abs. So like, you shouldn't do the two biggest muscle groups in your body the same day. I'm like, well, I don't know. That's working for me, kind of.
It works.
I don't know. But like, what's your goal? I'm like, my goal is to just feel strong. Like to your point about strength, that's my actual goal, and to be able to lift a kid and not have to feel like they're heavy. I want to just lift my kids and be a good dad. I want to be able to drag a deer without a lung collapsing. Like those are the goals that I have. So I don't know how much time is relevant between big tasks like a run, whether a long run or a fast run or heavy weights or whatever.
Yeah, gosh, I hate this answer, but it depends. Kind of like you said, it's highly dependent on the individual.
You think it's a rule of thumb to follow?
Yep, like whatever. I guess mine is generally like, for example, when I was training for that half marathon, like I had talked to one of my other coaching friends who trains a lot of marathon runners, just to I kind of built out my own program, but I wanted to get some insight. And he ran 6 day a week running programs, and I'm like, I don't physically think that I can run 6 days a week. Going from running not at all to 6 days a week like was just not going to be a good option for me. And so like even going from someone who's never ran to wanting to push themselves like that, I started running like no times at all to twice a week, and it was just for like 30 minutes or until it felt intolerable. Then I did that for a couple weeks, then I went 3 times a week, and then I went 4 times a week. And once I hit 4 times a week, then I started playing around with, okay, I want to run intervals, I want to do sprints, I want to do long runs, I want to do like all the different things that go into training for like a marathon type stuff. But as far as recovery goes, like my general rule for running, anyways, um, rule of thumb is as long as you don't have any shin splints, like if you have shin splints, like let those go away before you try to run again. Most people will just continue. Most people being me, so don't feel bad if it's you too.
Like,
Yep.
yeah, because it's like, yo, you have to stop for like 3 months. I'm like, what? But that's not something I'm gonna do. What do you mean? I can't just.
Yeah, and typically if you have to stop for 3 months, it's because you've continued to push despite having them anyways. Um, believe me, I know I've been there myself, and I've worked
Yeah.
with people who've done the same thing. So if you start to feel any sort of discomfort, like I always just say, take a step back until that discomfort goes away. And then
Yeah.
once it does, kind of ease yourself back into it. The problem where you get shin splints from, where you get any sort of injuries from, is because people try to go too far too fast. So you go from not running at all to trying to run 5 miles a day, which is a very unrealistic goal. So I always just say ease into it. If you feel any sort of like pain, injury, whatever, stop until that goes away. And then pick up slowly. Once you've started to pick up into it, like you'll kind of feel what your body needs, right? Like once I hit 4 days a week, I knew that I couldn't push more than 4 days a week of running because that my body needed about that much time to recover.
Yeah. Stress plus rest equals growth. I think that's the general recipe, and that could be in business and mental and physical and all that stuff. I just, man, I love running in the heat, and I'll just run. I only like running outside. So once winter comes, which is the majority of the time in this stupid state, it's like I don't run because treadmills are super boring. I can't really get there. Like, so I just
Mhm.
like looking at stuff when I'm running, and I'll just kind of like I will literally do the Forrest Gump thing. Like, well, I figured I might as well just keep running, so I'll turn left here instead of right, so I don't have to go back yet. Like, that's about like my running strategy, which I enjoy. I get a lot of quiet time to myself as a dad, so that's one way to get it. Unless I got my boys with me on scooters and bikes, but one of the questions I think I had was like going back to the podcast side of things and like the topics you pull from, were there any guests or conversations that like um shifted your thinking since you started doing this stuff? The podcast specifically?
Hmm. That shifted my thinking. I've had some really earlier on, well, I guess kind of like in the middle of it, some really good conversations. I kind of mentioned like asking people like, what does wild strength mean to you? I think it's kind of brought a like mental health perspective to it, which I love. And so like I've had a really good conversations with, and like specifically like men's mental health, which shout out, it's Men's Mental Health
Yeah,
Awareness.
yeah.
Men's mental health is something that I'm like super passionate about because I've worked with military and I've seen men just like degrade themselves, and I've seen their mental health just like slowly deteriorate over time. So it's something that I'm super passionate about. And I've had some really good conversations about that where I think, I consider myself like one of those people that people just open up to. And I don't know what it is about me, but people just like share their lives with me and I absolutely love it. So I've had quite a few people who I thought were maybe like very ego driven and hardcore and would never talk about their life, start talking about their life. And that always makes me really happy. But something that like I've definitely gotten, like from people who've hunted way longer than I have, I've learned a lot from having those kind of people on. I had Zach on, and I've never done trapping ever in my life, so I just had all of the questions, and I learned so much from him and just like that hour-long conversation. So, um, I think what changes my thinking, or like what I learn the most, is I'm just always blown away by like humans and the human experience and like the life experience, and I love hearing stories from people. I love hearing about life from people. And it never fails that I'll have most people are like, oh, what do we want to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. I'll figure it out as I go. And then I'll probably have like one question planned just in case like conversation's going poorly. And then I get to the end of it and I didn't even end up asking that question because I just like we got on a tangent and we started talking about so many other things. And I'm just always enamored by like humans. I think people are really cool. And so if won't necessarily think that anything's like changed my like perspective, other than I just think that there's some really cool humans out there that don't quite get the light that they deserve. And so I hope that sometimes my podcast allows that.
Yeah, usually if you get like one or two like comments or, DMs or take from people, like if it's touched someone's life in a big way, then that's enough intrinsic value for me to keep doing this, which is why honestly I have, because we get a lot of that type of stuff, and it's like,
Mhm.
how can I not? If like we're putting light into the world, like that's that's good enough. Um, is there anything you're still trying to figure out for yourself when it comes to strength in the outdoors and hunting? Like where are you at on your own journey?
Yeah, so much. I think like I'm in this fine line. I was actually talking to someone about this the other day of like I've gotten out there enough to know things. Like I've gone elk hunting the past 2 seasons. This will be my third season elk hunting, and I have not shot one yet. But I feel like every day that I'm out there, I'm a little bit closer and I'm learning a little bit more. Um, but I also, if someone wants to ask me a question, I'm like, oh, I don't know anything. Like I don't have anything to offer. I can't answer your question because I don't know anything. When it's like I've been out there learning, like I know things. Why am I not giving myself credit because I know things? So I think like just figuring out, I'm still figuring out like the point system in all the states. Like that is a whole mess of itself. Like trying, because I try to hunt more states than just the one that I live in, and so figuring all that out. Um, yeah, I think I kind of went on like if you were to ask me about hunting mule deer, I know nothing because I put so much effort into hunting elk that I haven't gotten the opportunity to hunt mule deer yet. I'm definitely one of those people, like, I'm gonna put horse blinders on and I'm gonna go all in on one thing, and then when I figure that thing out, I'll try something else. So I think, yeah, finding a balance between, like, giving myself credit that, like, I know some things, and I think too, like, I think people think if you I'm not saying people think this, but people who don't hunt or don't see it think, "Oh, like, you've never killed an elk or you've never done this, so, like, who are you to talk about it?" Versus when you talk about people who have elk hunted, they're like, "Oh, yeah, like, it took me probably, like, 5 to 7 years to harvest my first elk." And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That feels real."
Yeah, it's always interesting. I just dropped my pen. I think it's always interesting to rather than talk about what you know or don't know, which you have an ability to do because you do have, even if it's 10 minutes of experience, you now know something you could talk about. Whether or not people are gonna like, yeah, it's like a kid getting into something. It's like, okay, kid, like I'm doing this for 30 years. I admire your tenacity, but like you got a lot to learn, you know. But instead, talking about what you have learned gives you the space to like air that out without the sense of like imposter syndrome or
Mhm.
that someone's gonna call you out on bullshit. It's like, well, no, I'm talking about how I'm learning about something actively right now. This is what I'm struggling, this is what I've learned, this is how the season's going. Like those things I think are totally permissible. And I wish I would have known that kind of mindset or that perspective about how to go about it when I started, because I had the same thing. I was like, I don't have any deer on my wall. How am I going to talk about deer hunting as a podcaster? I was so worried about it that I wouldn't even say my name. If you go back far enough, I would just be like, "This is the Word Hunt Podcast," because we weren't the Okayest Hunter podcast, and
Yeah.
I would just start going because I was like, I don't even want people to know that I'm Eric Clark, because if they go freaking look for me, they're like, "This dude, what? Why am I listening to this idiot? He's never even hunted that long." Um, Instead, I was trying to like champion other people who had the experience, and I was just asking all the dumb questions. But there's something to that too. So it's all very interesting. What was another? I had oh yeah, the identity side of things. You had mentioned
Mhm.
somewhere along the way. Like I've written a couple articles about how having your identity attached to external things isn't a good idea. And the article that I've written, like or wrote, has gone into detail about that. But like I think that's a big human nature thing, like, I and then it dawned on me when I went to get rid of my truck to take a step back because, like, single income living is hard, and I was like, "Do I really need this thing?" And so I got rid of my truck, and I was like, "Oh god, I didn't realize how much my identity was tied to this stupid vehicle because, like, I'm a deer hunter. I should have a truck, and if I don't, what does that say about me?" It can also be, like, a very masculine thing, like, "You don't have a truck? What are you, some kinda Sally?" You know, like, it tripped me up for a second because I'm, like, trying to be very stoic, and I, read the Daily Stoic every day, and I I'm like, "What the hell is that all about?" Like, I can't believe I was wrangling with that, but hunting is one of those things where we attach our identity to hunting, which is why if someone who's a non-hunter says something about it, our defenses go up instantly. It's fight or flight because our literal identity is being attacked and coming into question. If you're
Mhm.
attacking hunting, you're attacking my identity. How has your identity changed in your viewpoint of yourself since you started hunting and doing a hunting podcast, hunting centric podcast? Have you noticed that like when I became a dad, I was like, "Well, I was a dude, now I have a kid, now I'm a dad." Like those things, though, happened in an instant. It took time for me to absorb the new identity and to live that life. I don't
Mhm.
know if you've noticed that with what you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. This is also a topic that I am like really passionate about and I love because both in athletes and in military, law enforcement, fire, like their identity is their job, or in athletes, their identity is their sport. And then the second they retire or the second that sport is taken away from
They
them,
lose it.
they don't know who they are anymore. And that's when they end up going down this like downward spiral. And so I've learned a lot being around those kind of people and seeing that happen and seeing kind of what that does to you. And I'm really hesitant to like have an identity, like you said, tied to something external. If I meet a stranger in public that I'm not at the bow shop, like they have no clue I hunt, I don't tell a soul that I hunt. I don't want them because it's what I've learned
Isn't it
is
like
people.
that with CrossFit? "Hey, I do CrossFit."
Yeah, I do, yeah. Like, I've learned people are so intrigued by that, and then the second especially men, like, the second you say that, then that's all they want to talk about. I'm like, well, I would like to learn other things about life and you before that's all we talk about. So I don't tell men or women, I don't tell people that I hunt if they don't already know that about me.
Yeah.
That's not, yeah, I'm not like the hi, I'm a CrossFitter, hi, I'm a hunter. For me, it's like hi, like I think that I'm a cool human and I think that I do cool things. I like pride myself in being like a semi decent human being. And I also usually always put other people first. So I try to learn more about other people before I ever really share anything about myself too. Um,
That's gonna be really an uncomfortable podcast for you then. Like, let me ask you all these questions about yourself.
No, 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 and I will, like, when they're prompted, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I never volunteer information about myself until it's asked or prompted. Um, but I don't think, like, and even, like I said, my social media looks like that's probably my identity, and it looks like hunting and shooting a bow and all this stuff is, like, all that I do, but I'm just a person who likes to do cool things and who likes to go on adventures and who likes to put meat in my freezer and find any adventurous way to do that. And if hunting and being in the outdoors is how I do that, then that's how I get it done. But I do think I've also had a loss of identity crisis before. Like in my career, I was forced to leave a job, and at that moment in my life, I thought my life was ending. I thought my identity was gone. I thought that I would never be able to like continue on with my career when that happened. And so I think because I had that moment of like, I don't know excuse my language, I don't know who the fuck I am anymore. And I had to sit with that for quite a while. And that isn't what happened, right? Like so many people knew me in my career before that happened and were like supportive of me throughout that and afterwards. But it was like my own thought of myself and my identity that I was like, I'm screwed for life. Like I don't know what I'm doing with my life anymore. I think because I've experienced that, like I don't really tie my identity to anything anymore. I had a moment where like I thought I knew what my identity was. It got completely taken away from me and I was distraught and I didn't know what to do with my life anymore. And then now I'm able to completely separate myself from everything that I've ever done.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we don't even mean to tie our identity to different things. Like, it's not that simple. Like, we don't mean to do so. It just it
Just
kind of it can happen. And like my wife, when she's a teacher full time, or she was. Can you hear me? Okay, I feel like my audio switched. I'm not
yeah,
sure. Good to go. Okay. She left teaching 7 years ago to raise our daughter, and she's like, "Wow, that's like I am a teacher. That's what I have done. That's part of my identity." But it didn't dawn on her until later. And now that she's like re-entering the workforce, it's quite the opposite. She's like, my identity has been mom, and it's going to continue to be mom. Like that doesn't go away. But now
yeah,
she's re-entering, and she's like, now I'm going to become a counselor. And it's like, uh, man, the whiplash here is like palpable in how that. It's just crazy, and it even extends even to simple things like, I mean, as far as I read a lot of books. So one of the books I read about communications, like even if someone like tells me don't do that thing, my wife would say I have oppositional defiant disorder. Maybe she's right. I don't know. That's like an entrepreneurial thing, I suppose. But just in telling me not to do something is a bit of an attack on autonomy, which is identity. And so we can get like defensive about the dumbest stuff as human beings. And a lot of how we navigate the Okayest Hunter as a brand and how we carry ourselves on social media and how we engage with others, we always try to think about the human on the other side of the keyboard and not fight fire with fire, because like as soon as you do that, defenses go up and we're not going to have a productive conversation. Like the first word should be a breath and just taking a moment to like level set yourself before you say some shit that you don't need to. Like if you could go for a walk before you got into any sort of heated debate, like that would probably be a really good way to start any conversation, because it wouldn't be a heated debate anymore. It'd be a cooled off debate.
yeah.
You'd bypass that fight or flight bullshit. And yeah, so it's a fun topic, but as hunters, like we're a visceral, disagreeable bunch of folks, and being a hunter, that is part of my identity.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
If they ever got taken away, I would lose a piece of myself. So as much as I say don't tie it your identity to external things, like that one's a tough one. And I try to tie it to internal, intrinsic things like just being a good person, like you mentioned. Like, how can I give before I receive? So I have this stupid tattoo on my wrist because I want to give more than I take. And
Yeah.
I need that reminder because human beings are selfish. So it's fascinating stuff, really.
I think that's yeah, and I'm not gonna negate the fact that like it is a part of who I am. And I did a podcast. I think it was maybe the last one that I put out with my buddy named Guy, and we talked a lot about how hunting has like changed who we are as humans. And I think when something has that kind of impact on your life, whether it's a part of your identity or just like a part of yourself and human being, like just being in the outdoors has been incredible for like my mental health and my physical health and all of that. And it has changed who I am as a human being 100%. But I definitely don't try to be like the hi I hunt.
Yeah,
Like,
because the opposite is like, I'm a hunter. It's like
yeah.
it's the memes that I see and I have seen for like a decade of like nobody. And then
Mhm.
and then like hunters, you know, I would hate to live in the city or like, yeah, but no one fucking asked. Like, what? Why are you on the defense? Like, nothing's even happening. No one said anything. Chill out.
Yeah.
You know, like it, it's okay. We're not coming after it's okay. Like that kind of mentality is that like you're putting that forth all on your own kind of thing versus, yeah, if
Yeah.
someone asked me, of course. So I had this happen. I used to be when I was like, younger in my career, I worked for like a marketing company and we had to wear ties and shit like to work. And I think I had like all sorts of colorful ties because I don't really give a shit. I was like, it was fun for me as a young man. So I had like a pink tie and all sorts of stuff like that. And I remember one of the guys that I worked with when I was like, I'm going to deer camp this weekend. He's like, you hunt? He's like, bro, you wear a fucking pink tie. What do you mean you hunt? You don't fit the stereotype. I was like, I can wear a pink tie and still freaking go slay deer or try to. What are you talking about? Like
Yeah.
it was that was the identity thing. Like, you're this dude, not this dude. That doesn't make sense, you know? Uh,
I think that's something that like women struggle a lot with too. And I've talked a little bit to Elizabeth about this like a while ago. Is like I think because I've worked a male dominated field with a male dominated population, and then obviously hunting and archery and shooting is like a male dominated hobby. I'm very accustomed to like I don't put on a face, but like in my career, if I were to show up like with my hair done, full face of makeup on, all of that, like I would not be taken seriously by a freaking Green Beret. Like they're gonna look at me and they're gonna laugh at me and they're gonna think you don't know what you're talking about. So that's like I've carried that kind of mindset over from my career into like the outdoors and stuff and like how I carry myself if I'm at like a TAC or an expo or something like that. And some people think, oh, that's unfortunate. Like you should be who you are, but like I've never been a girly girl. Like that's never been me. But I also don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that women can, if you want to look cute when you're hunting, by all means, freaking look cute when you're hunting. If you want to dress up during the week and then like not dress up when you're hunting, by all means, like you can do both. And I think like similar to what you're talking about, like you can be a hunter and you can be a tennis player and you can be someone who wears suits and ties. Like
you
that
can
is
be
a
all sorts of things at the same time. Like none of these things are mutually exclusive. Like,
yeah.
yeah. And do you have any advice for women that like are curious about hunting in the outdoors? Or I've often, seen posts on the internet about like, if you lift weights, you're gonna get strong, and like, heaven forbid a woman looks strong. Like that's not even the thing that could happen, by the way. But do you have any advice from in either of the camps that you reside in when it comes to
Mhm.
wild strength?
Yeah. No, good question. I will start with like I've been trying to get big for years and I'm still a twig. So like just lifting weights is not going to get you big unless if like maybe you're on something to intentionally do that to you. But I think if nothing else, like I talk about a lot how like being strong in the gym makes me feel capable in all other aspects of my life, right? So it's like, oh, maybe going back to like the sleds, maybe I was pushing like 300 pounds on the sleds. And then I'm sitting here at work, like a paper that I don't feel like I know enough to be able to write, but I have to write it. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I was pushing 300 pounds on the sleds the other day. I can do this. Or like carrying the groceries in. Are you kidding me? Like, I was doing this at the gym the other day. I got this, no big deal. Or I can climb this mountain. I was doing this. So I think if nothing else, to go and as a woman, and for men too, to go into a gym or to do something physical that challenges you, will carry over into all other aspects of your life and will make you feel more capable in all other aspects of your life. So I think that's really big. And then as far as women getting into hunting, it's tough because I find like a lot of women are getting into it, like they want to get into it because their husband does or their spouse does. And I think that's incredible. Like, I think that's a good way to go and spend more time with your spouse or your partner or whomever. But for the women who like don't really have that help to help them, I think like, so much to my surprise, and obviously it probably depends on your demeanor and how you approach it. But any man I've ever asked, whether it's at the bow shop or at the range or whatever, for help, like they want nothing more than to help me. And so don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to seek help. Because anytime that I've ever done that, I've always gotten the help that I wanted and that I needed, and no one's ever really turned me down before. And I think like as a woman, it can be intimidating to go up to a man and ask for help. But also there are so many women that I find on social media who know a lot more too. And if you're not comfortable reaching out to a man, find a woman who you feel like you really vibe with. Like you said, some of them, there's bad eggs in every basket. But there are some women out there who are kicking ass, who are genuine, who are doing the dang thing. And I'm sure that they would also be more to help. And I'm also open to, if I don't have an answer, I would send you to someone who does have one.
Yeah, who are some folks off the top of your head, if you can, that you would recommend some gals follow, whether men or women, that you think are just good people to follow on social or good channels or whatever?
Good question. I really like, I'm also going to start with Elizabeth because she's a good friend of mine, but like we started hunting about the same time for similar reasons. And I think it's really cool to connect with someone who also hasn't been doing it all their life. Like, not that there brings any different challenges, but someone who's maybe been doing it all their life doesn't know like what's up to date with getting a new bow or new equipment or something like that. Like maybe they've had the same gear for forever. So I think she's a really good person to reach out to. There's so many people that I follow. Tana Grenda, she and her husband are in Alaska, and I actually just did a podcast with her. They've built, like, basically they live like 3 hours from society, and they're building their own home. They're building a hangar, both of them are pilots or were pilots at one point in their life. And Tana is the sweetest person I've ever met. She's one of those people who has like thousands of followers. And I remember reaching out to her for the first time thinking like, this is a cold reach out. I'm not going to get a response. And she responded right away and was more than glad to answer any questions that I had, to talk to me. And so Tana Grenda, I think, is a really good person to follow, and just I'm inspired by her life, but she's super sweet and responds to a lot of stuff too. Laura, I'm blanking on her last name. But her Instagram handle for a long time was the Dickless Hunter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then she ended up changing it because she wanted to work with kids, and a lot of these kids were like, that's probably not smart. She's one of those who really gets out there too. Her and her husband, I believe they're in Idaho, but she's big into fishing, catches bigger fish than any man I've ever seen on social media. She's super cool, and there's so many that I could probably name off. But I'm really, and not that this should matter, but I'm really picky about who I will follow on social media, just because unfortunately you find yourself on it, and I don't want to be like taking in stuff that I don't like or makes me think negative thoughts or whatever. So there's quite a few women that I follow that I'm like, you guys are pretty freaking cool.
That's cool. That's cool. And hopefully Elizabeth had nothing but terrible things to say about our network.
absolutely terrible things.
I can't believe she took such a risk. I mean, I don't know what I call it, but she was the first one outside of our 4 walls that reached out to join. I was like, Elizabeth, I'm gonna be honest, like, I don't really know how to handle this yet.
Yeah.
Like, you can be a guinea pig if that's cool with you, and it all worked out, for a good time. She had a good run, so I'm glad that you guys are friends. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's I think I don't even remember how I met her. Um,
She had good
it
things to say about you too, by the way, 'cause, we try to vet people, so
Yeah, I think it was on, like, maybe social media, and then when I kinda, like, jumped ship, I talked about just, like, moving out here. I kinda, like, packed up I had a RAV4 at the time, and I packed it up, and, like, whatever didn't fit went, and whatever fit came with me. And I left Texas, and I went up I was in North Carolina for about a month. I had a friend that was living there at the time. And then I went up to Virginia for about 2 months and stayed with a friend there, came back to Texas, and then ended up in Colorado. But when I was in Virginia for a couple months, we had connected prior to me being out there on social media. And I was like, hey, I'm here like probably until this date, maybe shorter, maybe longer. I don't know, haven't decided yet. But not sure where you're at in Virginia. I'd love to meet up. And we met up and we went shed hunting one time. We went
oh, that's
shad
so cool.
one time. And then I think I've seen her maybe once since then, but yeah, I think that as much as I say I hate social media, I've met some really cool people from it, and so it's been a blessing in
Yeah.
that.
Things
Yes.
are what you make of it. I do the dating app thing. I met my wife on a dating app, so, like, it
Oh,
worked for us. I don't know how I don't yeah, it was pretty interesting how that all unfolded because it was before they were, like, had mass adoption, and so we were kinda like, "Yeah, we met on a dating app," like, because it still felt weird back then.
yeah, now
Yeah.
like everyone meets on a dating app.
Nowadays, I'm sure that's, like, probably more the norm. I don't even know where you'd meet people anymore. What a jeez, I feel bad that you're in that pool. I couldn't
That's such a sad lie.
imagine. No, I don't even wanna know what goes on in those things. Oh gosh. So, no
Yeah, well,
wonder you probably
like
got
it
off.
lasted a very short period of time because I was like, this is it. This isn't it. And I'm a social person, so I go out and I have
Yeah.
no problem meeting people. The problem is that I travel so much, so I'm like meeting people nowhere near where I live. So it's like,
Yeah, it's interesting. That'd be tricky. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, like, randomly agreeing to jump on tonight. We were chatting. We have, the Okayest Podcast Network has a chat group. And so when I figured out that Greg and Derek weren't gonna make it tonight, I jumped to y'all first as my first, like, let's see if I can get another podcaster on,
mhm.
before I ask some other people outside of that, and you had raised your hand, so I was like, "Oh, I don't think we've had you on yet," which we should have done, so, like, bad on me for not having this conversation and episode sooner, but really glad that you were able to jump in and help out, so you kinda saved my butt tonight, I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem at all. Glad to be on. And yeah, I was like, well, I think I saw your original message and I was like, oh, someone else is definitely going to hop on. And then two people said they couldn't. I was like, okay, actually, I'm going to do this because I kind of want to. And I love podcasting with other podcasters because just the conversation goes so much smoother. Um,
Yeah, the energy is effortless. You get a certain guest on, and you gotta, like some guests are easier than others as a host to, like, extract from, like, you'll ask an open-ended question, and somehow they'll make it a closed-ended question, like, "How did you even fucking do
how did
that?"
you do that? I've had some that were rough, and I was like,
You're working real hard on those ones. Like, people don't realize it's like a duck on water. Your feet are just going like this as you're trying to look cool, like, "Damn it." I'm like, how do I get this person to talk?"
oh my god, and stuff. I had a handful of those, but then I'll go back and listen to those, and they don't sound nearly as bad as they were while I was recording it. And
Everyone's
I'm
like,
like,
"Oh, it sounded great." I'm like, "You have no idea how hard I worked to make it sound that good."
I definitely was carrying the weight of that one. But yeah, I love hopping on other people's podcasts because it's like this is so smooth and easy and fun, and I always enjoyed it. And the brief conversations that you and I have had before, I feel like is always easy conversation. So yeah, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it. I think we had a lot of good things to talk about.
Yeah, where do, like do the shameless plug stuff,
Mhm.
Wild Strength podcast, like, how do you, recommend people go about listening, finding you, and all that stuff?
Mhm. Yep, the Wild Strength on Instagram. I believe the page is Wild Strength Podcast, and then it can be found on all the streaming platforms that the OKS Hunter is found on. And I also sometimes I do video recordings, and I will upload those to YouTube as well. I have a few like just audio only ones, and so those never make it to the YouTube. So YouTube gets posted a little bit less than all of the other platforms. But yeah, part of the Okayest Hunter Podcast Network, as we mentioned earlier. And then my personal page is just at Whitney Tramel, and then like 2 underscores after that, 1M, 1L. And I go back and forth. Like sometimes I post a lot on my personal page, and I'll post on my podcast page. It honestly just depends whichever one's open whenever I open Instagram. And
Yeah.
that's
Oh, I guess
typical.
that's what I'm posting today. Yeah.
That's generally the one that I post to or that I'm on. But you can find me there as well. And I try to be, if you have any questions, I try to be as responsive as I can, because I know, like I said, anytime that I've ever reached out to someone, and it's always just nice to know that people are willing to respond and help, no matter how, I don't consider myself big at all. But no matter like how big or small they are, if they're willing to help, I always appreciate that. So I definitely try to respond as much as I can and help as much as I can.
Yeah, same. Well, that's again, thank you so much. And everybody that tuned in, hopefully you got something out of this episode this week. And we'll be back next week. We do have a guest in studio. I think minimum Derek and the guest will be here. I'm not sure about Tubbs yet. We'll find out more soon, but we'll be back next week doing what we do. And we'll be inching closer to our July giveaway sweepstakes thing that we're doing. Don't forget to take the 20% off for Father's Day on our website on all of our merch. Looks like even while I was recording this, a couple people put in some orders. So that's pretty neat. Appreciate everybody. Have a great week. We'll be back soon.
Bye.